So what would I suggest? I suggest that you find you a mentor and work with them, be patient. You'll find that your success rate will increase.
Hey guys, welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. I'm Matt. I hope you've been enjoying all that propagation content we've been dropping on the Mr. Maple Show lately. This is another one. We've got more grafting content for you here today.
Howdy guys, I'm Tim. Smash that like button, we'd really appreciate it. Guys, we put out daily content on here. Make sure you're subscribed. If you love gardening, if you love Japanese maples, you're gonna love being subscribed to the Mr. Maple Show.
Guys, we used to go all the time down to Dr. Bill Shell's place in Auburn, Alabama for his annual grafting day. In fact, this recent year we went down and visited and we had a blast catching up with Bill Shell and Suzette and Peggy and all those great people. And we wanted to get on here and talk to you a little bit about Bill Shell's grafting day. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about that, but we're also going to provide you with some content on grafting from Peggy Deharmen and Bill Shell.
Now, Bill Shell, he's been grafting for years, and he's been teaching a lot of different people how to graft. And Matt and I often say, if you get 1,000 different grafters in a room, you're gonna have 1,000 different ways. So we thought we'd bring you some different perspectives on grafting Japanese maples from years ago when we went and visited them down at Pat Dye's Hunting Lodge and learned about grafting from both of them.
Yeah, Bill's probably taught more people to graft than, I don't know, maybe anybody on the planet. That guy's taught classes for 20 plus years on grafting. He is an enthusiast, a good friend of Harold Johnson's, who named several Japanese maples. Bill is passionate about propagation, and he won the Peter Gregory Award. When I was president of the Maple Society, I gave him the Peter Gregory Award, and one of the reasons he received that award was his enthusiasm for propagation for Japanese maples. He's always, changing, learning new things. Even in his 90s now, Bill's still grafting. He loves talking about propagation, and we've got some footage from a few years ago, so we want to throw some of that in. We're going to give you a little bit of a taste of what it's like to attend Bill Shell's grafting class.
This is Bill Shell here today, Dr. William Shell. He's going to give a nice little presentation on how to graft a Japanese maple.
Thank you, and I'm William B. What we do, we will graft the Japanese maple. We will get Japanese maple rootstock, and this is from a seed, been grown for 2 years. And what we want to do is convert the rootstock into a finer
I'm going to come out of here and watch the master.
Japanese maple. And we are going to graft this. This is a Murasaki Kiyahime scion. And what we want to be sure to do is not have any disease. So we scrub it down with alcohol. You can use a 10% solution of Captan, of Daconil, and you want to be sure that your blades are in good shape. And you want to get your scion. The scion was cut from a Murasaki Kiyahime, and it was kept really on ice. It was kept cold. You can keep them for a couple of months. I don't, but I cut these yesterday morning. And the thing is, I want to expose the cambium layer of the rootstock and the cambium layer of the scion, unite them. Hopefully they will callus, they will grow together. Then we will have a stem that will expose our top here. And if you grafted it down here, like this one, this is too low for this, because when this spreads out, it'll be on the ground, and you won't. That's okay, but what you want is good stem exposure with a Murasaki. I am using a knife made for grafting. It has a 23-degree bevel on the outside, and it's flat on the inside for a right-handed person. This is a teal 605, and it is made of samurai steel, so it will hold an edge. And this is sharp. This is sharp. Got to keep it sharp. If you don't keep it sharp, instead of cutting the cambium cells, you will crush them. So I will come here, expose the cambium, and you can make a smaller cut than that, but I like one about an inch, inch and a half. Then I come to my scion, expose one side, and then I go 180 degrees, expose the other. Now, you can see, maybe, that is symmetrical. Now, I want to insert the scion in the flap, and what I try to do, I align on the left side, I try to have about 1/64 of the edge, the bottom edge of the scion, and then that really makes me slant the scion inwardly to be sure that I can align the cambium layers. Now, I want these secured against each other, so I'm using a rubber strap, particularly designed for grafting, and these can be purchased from A.O. Leonard, aoleo.com. You do not have to cover the entire wood structure. You can just secure it. Now, what I do, I use a piece of buddy tape. Buddy tape is manufactured in Japan, and it's a stretchable tape, and it will allow gases to go through, but it will not allow moisture to go through. If you get your graft saturated with moisture before it takes, you'll drown it, and that's a no-no. So I secured it to the top, and as I go, I stretch it. Then what I have left over, I will put in between the scion and the rootstock, and that way I can get additional protection from water getting down to my graft. Now, the next question is, how do you keep the scion from drying out before it calluses, before it joins the cambium layer on the rootstock? Now, you could have this under mist in a greenhouse, and that would work, or you could put it under a little tent. As a matter of fact, what you could do, you could do 25 of these, 25 grafts, and put them all under one tent. And the purpose of that is to be sure you have essentially 100% humidity. So now here, I would spray in a little fungicidal water. So let's play like I got a little fungicidal water and go 2 shots. And you shake it 3 times. to get most of the moisture out, and I'm looking for just a high humidity. I will put it over the scion, get it down below the graft. And then I will wrap it. Now I have a tie, and you can purchase a tie, I believe, from International Bag Company, same place that you purchase your bags. Turn it twice, do 2 twists, and you're just about through, but you're not quite, not quite. What you're trying to do is get it identified. Don't think you can remember. Not so. So I'll just do MK from Murasaki Kiyahime. I'll do the date, 2/18/12, and I will put a little S here for shell. Several of us are grafting today at Coach Pat Dye's palatial gardens. And on this side of the road, we have about 780 acres. The other side, Pat's nursery, greenhouse, great place to visit. So there we have it.
So who taught you how to graft in this fashion, Bill? Is this something you figured out? Use some knowledge
I modified Harold Johnston's. Harold did not. One of his failures to me, he never cleaned. He never used a fungicide, and I saw him have 70 to 80% success. Harold claimed 98%. And I never saw him get that, and I spent hundreds of hours with him because I was intrigued with the grafting process. And the interesting thing is, for me, you will find that people, they want to graft right now. Let's do it. Give me the maple, give me the scions, and here I come. I grafted 200. I made 200 grafts before I ever touched a maple. I'd walk through the woods and I'd grab a piece of dogwood. Why I like dogwood? It's soft. It cuts better than maple. And I would practice my cuts. I would practice in my band. And I got the first batch I ever did on Japanese maple, I got close to 80%. I don't get that now mostly. Sometimes I get 100%. I did a Murasaki Kiyahime, and the top was bad branched on the rootstock, and I grafted 25 Murasaki Kiyahime scions. They all took. Of course, as it grew, you had to cut some of them back because you had a mighty weedy looking plant. So what would I suggest? I suggest that you find you a mentor and work with them, be patient. You'll find that your success rate will increase.
So I'd be remiss if I brought up Auburn, Alabama, and I didn't talk about the late, great Pat Dye. Now, Coach Dye was a good friend of ours and just a fun guy. He often invited Tim and I to come down to his hunting lodge, enjoy a great steak, and he didn't want to talk football with us. He wanted to talk Japanese maples.
Yeah, Pat was a good friend. He loved Japanese maples. In fact, he had a garden center down there where he grew Japanese maples as well.
Right.
And he loved nothing else than just sitting down with me and Matt and discussing Japanese maples. And we would talk for hours on hours, sitting down at his hunting lodge late into the night. And then sometimes he'd get into football as well.
Yeah, he would slip in some football stories. One time we were down there, I specifically remember, and Coach Dye was like, Matt, I got to leave. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I need to leave for a minute. I got to head over to the stadium, and I'll be back in an hour. Well, he comes back an hour later and is like, well, did you have to go do something? He said, yeah, it was a photo shoot with Bo. It's like, Bo Jackson? Yeah, it was a photo shoot with Bo Jackson. So he just had this little thing to do on the side. You know, he was all the time hanging out with, Brett Favre, Cam Newton, all these celebrities that would come to his hunting lodge and hang out. But he loved Japanese maples. That was truly what he was passionate about. It was kind of funny because he would sign some autographs And they'd be like, man, I'm tired of talking about that. Let's go talk about Japanese maples, fellas. And every time we went out to dinner with him in Auburn, it was like you went in somewhere with the president. Like I remember specifically going out to a restaurant with Pat, and I'm a little young to remember his football career, so I knew him as a maple friend. I thought of him as a guy who really likes Japanese maples, who's a good buddy of mine, and a really cool guy. I knew of his career. I knew it was Pat Dye Field at Auburn, Alabama, but I didn't really remember him coaching per se, like me watching his games. So it was funny when we would go out to restaurants and people would stand up at attention when he walked in, like the president had walked in. It was like a level of respect I've never seen in my life. It was a lot of fun. I got introduced to the whole Auburn and Alabama rivalry through him. But a good friend of ours, Pat Dye, made a heck of a steak, and we really enjoyed his grafting days, especially when Bill Shell was over there doing those grafting days with him.
And I remember when we went to that restaurant, after everyone stood at attention when he walked in the room, like we were going through the buffet and people would walk up to us and they'd say, do you know who you're sitting with? And it was very comical because when we first met Pat Dye,
right,
people kept calling him Coach Dye, come down to Coach Dye's place. We're like, all right, give us the address. We didn't know who Coach Dye was per se, but then when we started realizing that he was this legendary coach at Auburn University, it kind of shocked us because it was someone who was so into Japanese maples.
Really a fun guy. I miss him a lot, and we wanted to throw him into this video as well. So one funny story I remember about Pat, and it was a few months before he passed, and Pat was a huge jokester. He loved to joke with us. He knew Tim was a UNC fan, so he couldn't help but tell Tim every time he beat UNC in his career, every time we talked to him. He mentioned the fact that he downed the ball like 8 times at ECU to not score again. He was a continual jokester. He loved to play jokes on people and just laugh and have a good time. And I remember Coach Dye calling me a few months before he passed, and he said, Matt, I want to learn about shipping maples. I'm going to come up there with a crew, and we're going to videotape everything you're doing. And we want to get your boxes and just do everything the way you're doing it there. And, we're good friends, so we joke around. But I said, Coach, when you played Georgia for the big game or you played Alabama, do you remember bringing those guys over and just handing them the playbook the whole week ahead of time and saying, here's how I do everything. Here's the layout. And he's like, I thought you were going to say that. But great guy and a good friend of ours. Never anything competitive really with us at all. He was such a good friend and somebody we'll truly miss. Coach Dye passed a little after COVID. Now, I hated that we couldn't get to his funeral because it was, during COVID. But he was such a good friend of ours. He's someone who called me probably once a month just to shoot the bull and make some funny jokes.
I think Coach loved Japanese maple so much he couldn't help but call us at least once a month. He would discuss with us his favorite Japanese maples. I mean, I know Watnong was up there for sure. He loved Oshiobeni. And Pat, lover of Japanese maples, and he got his love of Japanese maples from Bill Shell, who we just showed the grafting video about. Pat Dye, amazing guy who loved Japanese maples, a good friend of ours. And next we've got a video about Peggy Deharmen and her grafting style.
Yeah, Peggy's in Pensacola, and she's one of Pat's, I would say one of Bill's best disciples for grafting. He's really, he considers her his star pupil. He takes us under the wing as well, but Peggy may be the favorite for good reason. Peggy is an expert grafter. She has a pecan farm down in Florida, and she comes up to Alabama and teaches these grafting classes, and she's an expert in her own right. She knows what she's doing, inside and out with a grafting knife. She's excellent at it. And let's share a little bit of her style with you as well.
You can, it's good to get yourself organized so you don't have to put your scion down after you cut it.
Cut the limbs off that here. Leave the copper.
Alcohol does not hurt a punch for some reason.
You said Johnson.
But if you have a lot of black stuff on it,
Yeah, that's where Johnson.
and that's straight alcohol. That's just alcohol. Okay. Ready?
Down the house of the boy.
And for some reason, I have a habit of
Is it on?
cutting off my terminal bud.
Right there.
There's a hormone in here called
Y'all go.
axon, and it's actually cut it off.
It's your answer.
Richard cut the bag that we brought.
Active, and you will get
Little further down.
multiples of your scion. If you don't, you will probably only get
Coach,
and just fall asleep. So it's just a little thing that You can put grafting wax on the tip, think it might bleed. If you cut off your rootstock, you can put the grafting wax on the top, for a dry or whatever, bacteria, whatever gets in the plant. So, here we go with our action to the side. Hopefully I'll make a good demo here. Just come down and you move your
Okay,
ladder
now,
to the line as you come down.
if the borders get here,
Very easy to cut on
How
this.
are you? Doing well, good to see you.
I put toward you.
Richard. Hi, Richard. Nice to see you again. This is Amanda.
But I always cut toward my thumb.
Gordon's have arrived.
And I do the same sliding motion, it's not straight
what I
down.
want to have,
And I don't know if that's important or whatever.
people get sent.
Check around.
One single motion.
Wow.
I would like.
And you turn it exactly up to the other
Hey,
side.
Amanda,
You try it again, and you hopefully get that.
I would like you to
That's perfect.
professionally shoot.
Okay.
Like I said.
So
So we can
hopefully,
create a grafting.
sometimes I line up on this side if I like the way it matches. If it doesn't match, I turn around, I switch to the sign, and I put it on the other side.
Good.
You can see it's a nice and still line up in your sign. It's got some red on it here. Your rootstock is a little bit, you can just slide it right down in there.
Look at that, like it's not.
You hopefully it has a very,
I want good center.
and that it should match.
I have
The flap is a little long.
confidence that I can
Carl
shoot
Mudd
with
just
that flip
chops
bill,
that off.
and
I'll
I
show you
know
how
what
it
to
goes.
do.
But you
I
look
have
over
confidence
here,
that I know what to
and
do
you
with
don't
the
want to
foot
see
on one
any
shoot.
cambium, you want it just to cover all of that.
I
Now
would
Bill
be
has a trick.
delighted for you to use yours.
He takes all of his and he angles it a little bit.
Feel a little.
That way you know you have cambium layer.
But I would
Straight up,
have
you line like this line, so
So if you're tilted, you've got two cambium on each side.
you at least know you've got some cambium touching.
Okay.
If you do it straight up, sometimes you might not. Now, I use several different techniques. I use rubbers and I use plastic.
And they're old. I stole them. The video club thing tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna show this to you and I'll show you, if you can't tie the rubber, I'll show you a little presentation if you is. So, one hand, and some people go ahead and cut off their rootstock now. I wait until it calluses and then I cut it off. So we can wrap this around. This is just one tip. You wanna check your line up as you go up or down.
Over to.
How you doing?
I suppose you had to tie it off.
So, all you do is hold this out for a loop, bring this around and stick it through, and then you can let your left finger go, and it's,
Ah.
Just perfect.
now Bill will tie it much neater than me. He has a nice little loop up here, it's beautiful.
We'll be down.
I give a little squirt of water, not in Bill's face. I use this on everything, it's a gel,
Where did you get that?
Home Depot or Lowe's.
And now, but who was last, do the guy who was right, who was that?
Alan.
Alan, he was so upset.
Well, on his, seat.
Then also on his sweaty tag.
Yes, he did use that on his tape. Now, if you, have trouble with the rubber, you can use, there's lots of different buddy tape. Mine is not serrated, so I ran out of that. I like that a lot, a lot better than
What you do,
this, but this is what I have, so.
When you're there, you may want to.
Catch the slime,
This stretches.
push it up and you will about a
So if I had had trouble with the rubber,
sticking
I
out.
could have used this instead. But the deal with this is,
Your slime is leaning to the right to
this is
be sure
bleeding
to catch.
tremendously.
The camera.
This rootstock is not dry enough. I didn't have any trouble yesterday, but juice is running out of this now.
So what's gonna happen?
Well, you can drown.
No, what you do, what you want to be
You
able
dry
to
these
do
out
is
before you grab it. This seems dry, but you see it's running.
Got that built too.
So nothing ran on
Rub
me
it,
yesterday, and I
rub it.
grabbed it about
But,
25 or
Just
30.
give me a
No,
call.
rub
There was
it up.
no
And
running.
just bring your notepad.
But here,
That's all
here,
you
let
want.
you see what I'm talking about.
And
The
then
sap
you
runs out
align
of
it.
this. We'll just cut this off.
Then you get your rubber strap,
We'll look here in a minute and see if this
reach
bleeds.
around,
This is definitely, it's just running down here now. And I didn't encounter that yesterday at all. Now,
Cambium.
you can use the famous bag, the little shell bag. I guess he went to Europe and found a little bag. It's a mini greenhouse. And I cut a slit in my side. Big tail does not. I usually squirt in a little fungicide. And I just put it all over the bag.
That's a third.
So, here you go. Here's the bag technique. And you see the little slit just slides right down. And
You know,
covers the,
knocking it out.
and I usually wrap it like this and give a little pull like that.
Chad,
And,
getting set up, you can do one in 20 seconds. Right, Rick?
and then we'll just put twist
Got
ties.
that little.
I've got some twist ties.
I've got some.
Got a little turn on it.
So we can twist her up, and this is a nice way to look at. As long as I see moisture in the bag, I don't add any more.
MK.
And in a few weeks, this should be leafing out.
Same reason.
Now, as soon as it, I mean, when do you take the bag off? When it leaves out?
When that thing is filled up with leaves,
Okay.
I loosen it and just let it hang there.
You don't need that.
To harden it off. You heard that last time, harden off. So we don't want to shock it, but you loosen this and let it start to breathe some of the less humid air and see if it's going to be tough enough to continue to survive. So you're all finished except what I do. Everything is not 100%, so the bag is dispensable, so I write Mirasaki Kihimbi on there. And I write 2, is it 18 today?
Yeah.
21812.
Okay, well, that's
What you want.
And so if it fails, we can pretty fast, but there you go. So
Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a little bit about our trips to Auburn and just reminiscing some. We wanted to get Bill and Peggy and just discuss a little bit about Pat Dye on this video for you. You know, good memories that we'll always cherish. And I hope you learned something from this as well about grafting. So we've shown you a couple different styles here from Bill and Peggy, and reminisce a little bit about Pat too. What a fun guy. You know, we went down this year and Pat had passed, but I couldn't help but go down there without thinking about him.
I love letting people learn more about Japanese maples, and that's what this channel is really about. I mean, that's why we put out daily content on Japanese maples and getting to see different styles of grafters besides our own style. I hope gets you to understand more about this grafting process and everything someone has to do to make a tree available in a 1 gallon size. I mean, it's one of those things where people don't realize everything that goes into it, and I think the grafting process is definitely a big part of it.
Guys, if we've earned it, and if you made it this far into the video, I think you liked it. So if we've earned it, definitely take a second and subscribe to this channel. There's always new gardening content, and we hope to make content that's applicable to your garden. So you'll benefit from being a member here and seeing our channel and just enjoying this content, but taking it home and using it in your own home garden or learning to propagate things like we did today. So we hope that's something that's beneficial to you. And if it is, like, subscribe, and share this channel. It goes a long way. And if you really want to support our channel, the best way is shopping on MrMaple.com.
Guys, we put out 10 new trees every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
He's lying, it's 20.
We do put 20 out. So if you sign up for our weekly email, you can get those 10 at 10 emails and figure out the 20 items that are getting released at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday, so you can be prepared to check out fast, because with 1,400 different varieties, there's some really cool rare ones that we release each and every week.
Take care.
God bless.
Have a pretty good day.